As if 2021 couldn't be a worse year for Star Wars video games, we have another addition to the long list of things getting either delayed or canceled. But there is a silver lining, so let's jump and talk about that. Welcome to Uplink. Okay, so Zynga and EA had investor calls recently, and we got some more details, some of which is pretty good. And I'm going to save the good stuff so we can end on a high note, or somewhat high note. But let's get started with the Zynga news. So for a while, we've kind of been suspecting that Zynga's Star Wars game, Star Wars Hunters, there was something up there. We thought there's been a while that's been like, we should have already had like a soft launch already. What's going on? Well, we now know, and it is that Star Wars Hunters is going to be delayed until 2022. So we're not getting any Star Wars games for 2021. Yes, let me say that again. We're not getting any Star Wars games for 2021. It's crazy. What? We don't even have we didn't even get any announcements. Everything that we've gotten in 2021 in terms of Star Wars gaming has been negative. It's been games either getting canceled or delayed. Mostly it's been delayed, thankfully, like Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga. It got delayed. It didn't get canceled. But who knows when it's going to come out. At this point, it is the only saving hope that we'll get a Star Wars game in 2021. But we've heard nothing. We have literally heard nothing from that game since it got delayed. Which is wild to me. On the Star Wars Hunters front, it was announced at a Nintendo Direct in February. We got this announcement. So it's been 6 months since we've heard anything. And this is the first time we've heard anything about the game. So it is officially delayed until 2022, but the game will do a limited soft launch in Q4. So that could be, I think Q4 is December to February, if I remember correctly. It's a different year. It's a different setup than the normal quarters of, I think it's the fiscal year instead of the actual January to March type thing. I think it may not be that way, but it's probably going to be winter or early 2022. My bet would be early 2022. I don't think we're going to see a soft launch this year for the game. Sadly, I think we're going to see it next year. So what really caused this? Why have all of these games and developers and studios been like, 2021, it's not the year to release games? Well, COVID has been such a huge hit to many, many people in the gaming industry, which is surprising. Technology has been one of the best suited things in terms of work from home, game development, and specifically software development in general has been a huge thing to be work from home. Many people have been doing work from home for development for many, many years. But this is something that the game development industry hasn't really adopted that much. I mean, there are studios that do have it as an option, but not the whole production going to work from home. So I think that's been a big issue and a big part of why these games have been getting delayed or have been getting some even canceled. I think that's the biggest part of it. I think that's why we're seeing such a big shift in these development companies announcing delays. I wouldn't necessarily say there is a bigger reason that these games are getting delayed. I think ultimately it comes down to everyone has been hit very differently from work from home, and that is why we aren't getting many Star Wars games, many games really, truly, that were put into development in 2020 with expected releases in 2021. I think that's one of the biggest things here. But it could also be Disney saying, hey, we don't necessarily want Star Wars games right now. We want to put those into the pipeline to be released in 2022. That way, visually, it looks like, hey, we've got a massive amount of Star Wars gaming content coming in the future, and it's going to be visually looking really good for them to say, look at all these Star Wars games you're getting. See, we're making tons of Star Wars games. I think that could be possibly part of it. Do I think that's the truth? Not really. I wouldn't necessarily say that is the exact reason that we aren't getting many Star Wars games and they're all getting pushed to either 2022 or 2023. I think it ultimately comes down to COVID, but we may see something different later on. It may come out later on that, yeah, you know what? Actually, Disney really wanted those games to be launched in a similar time frame, or at least get those in development so they can set up, say, maybe down the line, they have a game that comes out in 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026. And if it came out in 2021, there would have been a year gap or something. That could possibly be it. Do I think it's likely? Not really. I think it ultimately comes down to COVID. We still don't really know much about Hunters. We just kind of know that it is going to be a mobile game, but it's also going to be on Switch. With Zynga producing it or publishing it, I do think we're going to see a level of microtransactions in it, at least cosmetically. But since it is a mobile game, I expect that we're going to see some pay-to-play kind of stuff. It's Zynga, man. Honestly, with what we've seen with Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, I wouldn't expect anything different from a mobile game coming from Zynga for sure. And even the past games from, I think it's Alien Boss or Boss Alien, the developers in charge of this game, they have some games in their back catalog that have some microtransactions in it, some pay-to-play type stuff where you can wait or you can pay and you can do it now. That's just the landscape of mobile games right now. It's just one of those things that it's part of the process, and you can love it or hate it, but it's always going to be there. Sadly, I would love to see a move away from the kind of sleazy children game gambling type thing in multiplayer games or mobile games. It's sad, especially from a Star Wars license. Historically, Star Wars is a children's franchise. Obviously, it also suits all ages, but ultimately it comes down to a children's franchise. And if they are offering basically gambling or manipulation of children to continue playing their game, it's dirty. It's dirty to me. That's ultimately why I don't really play mobile games all that much. Now, I am going to give Star Wars Hunters a shot for sure. I mean, it's a Star Wars game. I'm going to take whatever you give me. I'm so starved from Star Wars right now, of Star Wars gaming, that I want to play anything, even a mobile game. And maybe that's why we've been getting so few Star Wars games. Like, you know what? They're going to be starving for this. We're going to release it, and it's going to be the only Star Wars game, and either you play it or you don't get any Star Wars. Hopefully they don't think that, but maybe they do. Maybe they're all manipulating us. Put my tinfoil hat on here. Sadly, it is going to be the only Star Wars game for a little bit. I do think we may be getting some more Star Wars in 2022. I don't know though. I think 2022 we're only going to get announcements. I don't know if we're going to get any launches for Star Wars games, because I could see it kind of needed to be announced this year if they were going to release a big game in 2022. But I could be wrong. I could definitely be wrong. I am not in the publishing side of things, so I don't really understand the pipeline. But I do understand that as we have continued and grown as a game industry, that publishers and developers are starting to push the announce and the release dates closer and closer together, We're seeing, especially from a consumer standpoint, we don't want a cyberpunk situation. They don't want a cyberpunk situation where they announce a game 10 years ago and it comes out and it is clearly not a game that took 10 years to develop because of the issues that they had. So I think consumers, the companies themselves are understanding that the hype train is more of it's not necessarily a lead up. It's a big drop, and get people talking about it. It's a weird time for gaming right now. It really, really is. But what's going on with the other positive news that I was mentioning? Well, let's jump into this right here. So this information came to us from an investor call that EA had not too long ago. I think about a couple days ago as I'm recording this, I think 3 or 4. And they specifically said that EA will continue to invest in the Jedi Fallen Order franchise. And that's the exact wording there. The Jedi Fallen Order franchise. Now, this is good. This is good news. This is very, very good news. They have all but confirmed that we are going to be getting more Jedi Fallen Order. Thankfully, they've all but confirmed the second one. Because one game is not a franchise at all. Please. Could you guys be more clear about your intentions with Star Wars? It'd be lovely for us fans, but at least we get a mention of it, and they aren't like just avoiding it entirely. Though there are some leakers, some good, honest leakers. Rumors around the next Jedi Fallen Order game that it will not come before fall of 2023. So we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer before we get any more news, information, or anything like that in terms of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which I'm fine with. Give the team as much time as they need and don't get in their way. EA, Disney, don't get in Respawn's way. They're giving you tons of money. In the same investor call, they told us that Apex, Respawn's game Apex, has brought in over $2 billion over 2 years to EA. And this is a game that EA didn't really seem to really invest in. They released it without really any marketing, and the team kept on going. It was just some side project. And as the game has continued, basically EA has been like, fine, I guess, because you guys are making more than our stupid sports games, we'll promote it now. Okay, you earned it, I guess. Like they have seemed very hesitant to really announce how awesome and great that Respawn has been to EA as a whole. One of those really odd acquisitions that EA made, and it didn't really seem that well. It didn't seem to fit EA that well. But now they're finally getting money from it, and that seems to be the biggest thing for EA to really hammer down on something. But even that, in that case, it doesn't necessarily mean anything really, because of Battlefront was such a huge success and ultimately became such a great game. It just didn't have a way to continually get money brought in from it. So I think that's one of the many reasons it got canceled, or it got end of lifed, if that's even a phrase. But Jedi Fallen Order 2 is a thing that is going to be coming at some point in the future. 2023 is looking to be the best time, ultimately, that it will be released. And that will also be the last year that EA has the exclusivity license, and we're going to see more from Ubisoft. So I think, ultimately, that is Jedi Fallen Order 2. When it does come out, is going to be a big, big part of EA. It's going to be a big decider on how much investment that we're going to see from EA into the Star Wars franchise. It's going to be one of those things that is, I don't even know if this does it enough. It's going to be a tentpole part of EA's strategy and what direction it takes Star Wars. Could you imagine a future where the only games that EA makes are like first-person shooter games? Or not first-person shooter games. Could you imagine a future or a timeline where the games that EA makes are single-player games? Could you imagine? I'm just putting this out there. Could you imagine if EA just doubled down on single player games? It could be really cool. I could see them doing it too. I could definitely see them doing it. Just depends on how well Jedi Fallen Order 2 does. And I think it's going to really inspire the future of Star Wars games ultimately. I mean, obviously we're going to see Ubisoft's game and it's going to be coming out somewhere near Jedi Fallen Order. I don't know if it's a good idea to release that game around the same time as Jedi Fallen Order 2. Oh, I think it would be good to release that game in 2024, honestly. Because I think while Star Wars fans are starving for Star Wars games, I still think it is good to space them out a little bit. Because there's still like the casual audience. Star Wars is a pretty casual audience, generally speaking. And the broader world of things, I mean, yeah, we're in the inner sanctum where we're super, super fans of everything Star Wars. We watch all the shows, the movies, play all the games, read the comics, read the books. Like, we are really tuned in to Star Wars. But the broader audience of Star Wars isn't necessarily as in tune. Like, I know people that they're going to get a Star Wars game from the shelf at Walmart for Christmas. And it's going to be a big part. Like, if you release 2 games, I could definitely see the casual audience not getting both of them. It's like, I got one Star Wars. I don't need another Star Wars. So I think that's going to be a big part of, as we get more investment into the Star Wars game world, I think we're going to have to see them spaced out a bit, which is good for us. I'd rather a game a year than like 3 games one year, and then 3 years later we get 3 more games in 1 year. While I think there is enough of an audience to support 2 games launching in 1 year, I'd rather have that like gradual launch strategy of like, okay, you're going to get a game this year, you're going to get a game next year, you're going to get a game that year after that. I think that'd be much better, much, much better than you're going to get all the Star Wars in 1 year and you're going to have to buy all of them, and you're going to have, like, people only have so much money for games. Games, unlike movies, are a bigger monetary investment, like $60 to $70 for a launch game. People sometimes only buy like 3 or 4 games a year. So do you, like, what is going to make me buy that game for the one game that I get? I don't like, think Battlefield is like one of the first games I've actually bought full price for launch in a while. Because I have Game Pass and I just wait for sales. Like that's how I play games. I'll give it some time, wait before it gets on sale, and then I'll jump on it. But Battlefield's one of those things that I'm super pumped about. So I think it's an honest thing. I think it's an honest thing that people are going to wait. They're only going to buy one game, so space them out. And I think that's going to be an interest. That's going to be where Disney jumps in. Disney jumps in and says, okay, while we love the competition here, guys, it's going to make the content super good. You guys need to hold off. Okay, Ubisoft, you launch your game in 2024. EA, you've got the game, you've got Jedi Fallen Order 2 launching in 2023. Okay, we're good for those 2 years. What do we have for 2022? Okay, boom, you're going to be in there. I think that they're ultimately going to be that similar strategy, unless the games are absolutely drastically different. I could see them being like, okay, we're going to have a simulator game that also launches alongside a first-person shooter game. I think those two things could really, I think the audiences are so different that they aren't going to conflict with each other. So I think that's going to be good. Ultimately, the competition around Star Wars gaming is going to get better, and now that EA is soon not to have the license, it's going to be good for us Star Wars fans. It's going to be great, because no longer are we going to get 3 games in 10 years. 4 games in 10 years. Yeah, because Battlefront 2015, Battlefront 2, Jedi Fallen Order, and Squadrons. We're no longer only going to get 4 games in 10 years. We're going to have a lot more people hopefully working with that franchise. And I expect we're going to see some announcements closer to maybe not necessarily E3 2022, but maybe 2023. We're going to see a lot more of announcements like, we're going to see Activision. I would not like to see them be given the Star Wars license right now. Sorry, guys, but you guys need to get your crap together before I want the lovely Star Wars license to be put into that environment. But let's just say a random development company announces that they're going to be working on Star Wars. That's going to be good. I think we're going to see more of that as we get further and further away from EA with the exclusivity license. What do you guys want to see? Let me know either in the comments of this video if you're watching it on YouTube, or through email, on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you can find us. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you guys think that we're going to see going forward. But that's it for this episode of the podcast. Please stay tuned for more from us here at Star Wars Uplink and some big news coming your way in terms of the future of this podcast and the future of the YouTube channels, mainly the future of the YouTube channels. As we've got some exciting news, and this podcast is going to continue. I know there have been people like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, Sage? Star Wars gaming is so bad right now. We're plunging back into the long history of Star Wars video games. So definitely stay tuned and make sure that you're following and subscribed on all the places that you can find this podcast completely free, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Just make sure to follow so you keep the podcast in your feed and recommend it to your friends, family, random people on the street. It helps us out a bunch, and if you could leave us a review, it helps us out so much. We get more feedback from you. It helps us in getting recommended to other people on Apple Podcasts, even if you just download the iTunes app on your computer, your laptop, wherever. We'd appreciate a couple kind words or some feedback. It helps us out an absolute ton. So we'd really appreciate it. Also, if you're into Battlefield and super pumped about Battlefield 2042, check out the Battlefield Show. You can find it wherever you find podcasts, and it releases every Friday. It's myself and Sammy, boyfriend of the podcast, and who we had pretty recently on the show. We talk about Battlefield each week and the news and happenings in the world of Battlefield. Check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/Uplink Podcast, and stay tuned for more content from us there. It's fun. It's a fun time. And we would really, really appreciate your support on Patreon. We have a Patreon exclusive podcast called Uplink Plus, where we're diving deep into the Star Wars movies right now. As this episode drops, we're going to be talking about The Last Jedi. So make sure that you are supporting us on there if that sounds good to you. At the $5 a month level, you'll get Uplink Plus, and helps us out an absolute ton to afford upgrades to the show, hosting, and just generally posting more content for all of you. It helps us out a ton, and you get some exclusive you get an exclusive podcast. It's a fun time. We recently recorded the episode for Rise of Skywalker, which will be dropping in next week, and that was a doozy. It was over an hour long, and we go deep into our problems with that movie. So if you do love the movie, maybe skip that one, but definitely check out the other ones, because we've done all but the last two so far. And then after we do the mainline Skywalker saga, we're going to be hopping in and talking about Rogue One and Solo Star Wars story. And then I think we'll do a rewatch and talk through of The Mandalorian. So an episode by episode of The Mandalorian as we prep for more content there. So definitely stay tuned for that, and we'd appreciate your support there. As always, may the Force be with you, and we appreciate your support through this drought, and we are glad to be here for all of you awesome, awesome people.